What if the very thing you were ashamed of was secretly the reason life bloomed around you? In a quiet little village, tucked between rolling green hills and winding rivers, lived a boy named Ethan. Every morning, before the first rays of sunlight painted the sky, Ethan carried 2 buckets of water from the village well to his home. One bucket was perfect, shiny, whole, and reliable. The other was broken. A crack ran down its side, dripping water with every single step Ethan took. Day after day, water leaked down the dusty path, leaving behind a trail of wasted drops. Ethan's arms would ache from the weight, and his heart would ache even more from shame. He often thought to himself, "Why do I always have to carry this useless bucket? People must be laughing at me when I pass. I'm wasting effort, wasting water, wasting time." Every step with the cracked bucket felt like failure. But despite his protests, his father always insisted, "Take both buckets, Ethan. Both are needed." To Ethan, the words made no sense. The good bucket did its job, but the broken one only made him feel embarrassed. The word, ashamed, means to feel guilty, embarrassed, or not good enough. That was exactly how Ethan felt every day. Ashamed of the leaking bucket. Ashamed of being the boy who couldn't even carry water without losing half of it along the way. He began to wonder if perhaps he himself was like that broken bucket, cracked, flawed, and not good enough. One morning, after weeks of carrying his silent frustration, Ethan could no longer keep quiet. As he set down the buckets beside the wooden door, sweat dripping from his forehead, he turned to his father and blurted out, "Father, why do we keep the broken bucket? It wastes water every day. We could just use the good one and save all this trouble." His voice trembled between anger and shame. His father didn't respond right away. Instead, he simply smiled, not a mocking smile, but one filled with mystery, like he knew something Ethan didn't. After a pause, he said softly, "Come, Ethan. Tomorrow morning, I will show you something." Ethan frowned in confusion. The calm way his father spoke made him uneasy. Show him what? What could possibly justify wasting water every single day? That night, he couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned on his straw bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing the imagined laughter of villagers in his head. In his mind, he saw them pointing at him. Look at Ethan, the boy with the useless bucket. He clenched his fists and whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I'll get an answer." The next morning arrived with a sky painted orange and gold. Ethan picked up the buckets again, his muscles already sore with the weight he knew so well. His father followed quietly, walking a few steps behind him with an expression that was calm, patient, and almost expectant. Ethan sighed, balancing the good bucket on his right, and the cracked one on his left. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of wasted water echoed on the path, louder than ever in Ethan's ears. Each drop felt like a reminder of his failure. Halfway down the path, his father spoke suddenly. "Ethan, stop. Look carefully at the ground." Ethan froze and lowered the buckets. At first, he only saw the dirt. Then his eyes widened. On the right side of the path, where the perfect bucket had been carried all these weeks, the ground was dry. Dust, stones, lifeless. But on the left side, where the cracked bucket had dripped, something extraordinary had happened. The path was lined with flowers. Bright yellow daisies, soft bluebells, wild roses climbing up from the soil. The entire left side was alive with color and fragrance. His father's voice was calm, but filled with meaning. "Do you see?" The crack gave life. Ethan stood frozen, unable to speak. All this time, he had despised the broken bucket. He had cursed it for being useless. And yet, silently, without his knowledge, it had been watering seeds along the path. What he thought was wasted water had actually become a gift. His father bent down, plucked a flower, and held it up to Ethan. "Sometimes," he said gently, "what you think is your greatest weakness is actually your greatest gift." Ethan's throat tightened. Could this really be true? Could the very thing he hated so much actually be creating beauty? He thought back to the many mornings he had lowered his head in shame, the whispers of self-doubt he carried, and the weight of his own embarrassment. All this time, he had only seen failure, but there had been something greater happening just beyond his vision. From that day, Ethan no longer looked at the broken bucket with disgust. He looked at it with respect. The path he once dreaded had now become his favorite part of the morning. Instead of dull brown dirt, he walked through a trail alive with color. Villagers began to notice too. Children laughed as they ran along the flowered side, plucking daisies to give to their mothers. Travelers smiled and rested beneath the shade of blossoming shrubs. People began calling it the blooming path. And it became a small wonder of the village. Ethan, once ashamed, now walked proudly with both buckets, knowing that beauty had grown because of what was broken. One evening, as the sun sank and painted the sky with shades of red and purple, Ethan turned to his father again. "But father," he asked, "why didn't you just tell me from the start? Why did you let me suffer in shame for so long?" His father's eyes softened, and he placed a firm hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Because some lessons must be seen, not just heard. If I had told you that the bucket watered the flowers, you would not have believed me. You would have kept calling it useless. But now that you have seen it with your own eyes, you will never forget. And Ethan," he whispered, "never be ashamed of your cracks. They may water someone else's garden." Months later, something happened that etched this lesson even deeper into Ethan's heart. A young girl from a neighboring town came to their village. She was frail, sick, and tired from travel. Her family had brought her, hoping to find medicine. But when she saw the path lined with flowers, her face lit up with joy. For the first time in weeks, she smiled, reaching out with trembling fingers to pluck a daisy. Her mother knelt beside her, tears filling her eyes. "These flowers," she whispered, "they give her hope." Ethan stood nearby, stunned. The broken bucket hadn't just grown flowers. It had grown hope. In that moment, he realized something profound. The things we call broken may actually save lives in ways we cannot imagine. He looked at the cracked bucket with tears in his eyes and whispered, "Thank you. Sometimes in life, we hide our cracks. We hide our flaws. We believe they make us weak. But in truth, those cracks may be watering someone else's journey. What looks like failure may be the reason someone else finds beauty. Your weakness may be someone else's strength. Your pain may be someone else's hope." Ethan finally understood that perfection was not the goal. Purpose was. The perfect bucket carried water, but the broken one carried life. And sometimes the world doesn't need you to be flawless. It needs you to keep walking, even with your cracks. Remember Ethan and the broken bucket. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to keep going because sometimes the crack gives life.